That is...
Jen's mind blown.
Yeah! Like,
I just can't see it, but she just exploded.
Hi, welcome to Life Jenerally, hosted by me, Jen Lofstrom,
and me, Jen Tran.
We are Jen Squared, and this podcast is about life as a Jen!
Yay!
Hey Jen, how's it going?
Going pretty good on this Sunday. How about yourself?
It's going. I did my usual things. Did I tell you I'm slowly getting into tarot readings?
No, you didn't tell me that.
It is on Hulu, Battle of Fates, Korean competition show of the woo-woos. I have hardcore gotten into it.
Well, that's fun. Do you have any decks or anything like that?
I have 7 decks, but
Jeez.
I bought them years ago. I never opened them up, and now I'm just I'm going to do this since I'm unemployed. I have nothing.
You're going to go full woo-woo?
Yeah, full woo-woo. Maybe the cards will tell me the right places
to apply for.
Oh, yeah, exactly. So, Jen, how important is it to have siblings? When you were a kid, were you and your sibling, I know you have a brother, were you guys very close, or were you guys meh, or,
We were pretty close. We, my mom expected us to get along with each other, so there wasn't any other option, but we were pretty close. We'd play in the yard or in the neighborhood a lot. Obviously I was the older sister and he's the younger brother, and so he was always wanting to do his own thing. But yeah, I used to roller skate in the backyard and he used to skateboard in the backyard. So we kind of almost parallel play with each other, but still play. How about you?
So I have a younger sister. She's only a year and 9 days apart, between me and her. And
oh my gosh.
Yeah, we were peers. We're not the typical, there's a large enough age difference to kind of thinking oh, we can be that sister and sister dynamic. It's competition.
It wasn't Sister Sister, the TV show.
It was definitely Sister Sister. Even Sister Sister, I think there was a little bit of competition between the two of them.
There was.
Yeah, I think it would be equivalent to that.
Okay.
That dynamic. But don't get me wrong, there are times when if my sister needed me, I will definitely show up for her as best as possible. Not necessarily when you're a young child person. That might not be the best look.
Right.
Because you're I have to say I was very absorbed, and vice versa, she was too. But as we have aged out, I think it's kind of I definitely will have her back. But in my 20s, definitely, there's a moment where she started a riot at Best Buy because she didn't want people to cut. It was on Black Friday.
Oh, Lord.
And you know how people get competitive Black Friday, right?
Back in the days, man, you would line up and you'd be there.
Yeah. So there was people bum rushing to cut in front of the line, and she was able to gather the crowd to protest against these 5 individuals or 3 individuals to get out of line and security and stuff. And so these people felt pressure to get out. But if in case they started a fight, I have to be there to get her back. I'm not going to have my sister go in a fight without support, and
that's a lot of people.
Yeah. But I'm pretty sure the crowd was with her. I'm not saying they're not going to fight. They might engage here and there, but they're not going to be picking the pieces up of my sister. So yeah, in high school, someone was picking on my brother for something lame when he was a freshman, and I ended up going over and being you got a problem with him. You got a problem with me. And he was all right. And the guy was trying to punch me. And I looked at him and I was you want to be the guy that hits a girl at school? Then go for it. Because it's your school future, not mine. And then he walked away. I love that. So, besties, today's episode is very special to me. And hopefully it's very special to many people. So this episode is about siblings, But we have a special guest. Her name is Elliot Solomon. I am friends with her dad. So her dad introduced us. She has a unique and special relationship with her brother because he's a special needs person. So, Besties, let's do a warm hello to Elliot Solomon. Woo! Hey, Elliot, how are you doing?
Doing well. Nice to talk to you, Jen and Jen.
Nice to talk to you too.
Same. What is your relationship with your brother? Like, did you have anything like that where you have to like go back up your brother in case he gets into a fight or anything?
Oh, absolutely. My brother and I are almost exactly 18 months apart.
Oh.
So he was a year ahead of me in school.
Uh-huh.
So I'm the younger sibling, technically. But there was definitely plenty of times, especially around like older elementary, middle school age, the more emotionally fraught times.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Where, the one that kind of comes to mind was I remember my first middle school day. I don't even think it was middle school dance. I think it was his dance, but I was there with my mom to pick him up.
Mhm.
And there was these boys in the year with him, and they weren't necessarily antagonists to him, but this was the mid 2000s. We used words that are not necessarily words we would use now
Right.
to describe him. I'm
Aw.
not a huge fan of use of the R word, but they were
No.
using that against him.
Uh-huh.
And I kind of got up in their face about it, and they were not super happy about this little fifth grader getting up in their face about it. And my brother was like a little embarrassed that I came to his aid, but my mom was a little nervous because she's like, I thought you were going to punch those boys. And I was like, no, I just wanted to scare them. And she was like, that was like the first time I ever really like saw my mom, she didn't want to, that parent thing of like, I don't want to encourage this behavior, but also that was awesome. Which I'm feeling now as an adult with the young people in my lives, which is awesome. But
Yeah.
definitely, even with, I feel like siblings, there's never a 100% perfect, always rosy relationship, Fights happen. Yeah. I was actually talking with my fiance about this interview, and he was like, oh, when was like, do you remember like a fight? He's an only child. Mm-hmm. He's like, oh, you remember a fight you had? And I said, the one and only time in the 30 years of life that I remember my brother genuinely getting upset at me was when I overrode his save on a Pokémon game.
Some serious damage right there.
Well, this was before you had multiple saves on them. This was
right.
when you only had the
one.
one.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And I don't remember the exact trip. My brother Troy has a fantastic memory and would be able to tell me probably down to the day. But I remember he was like, okay, I'll let you play it, but you can't save because I don't want you to overwrite my save. And I said, okay. I probably was about 9 years old at this time. And I accidentally saved. And like his face turned bright red, and like both of my parents were like, oh shit, oh god. But like he was very clear in communicating. He's like, Elliot, that makes me very upset. I'm gonna go take a walk. And my parents were like, okay, good. Please don't explode on the plane.
You don't mess with Pokemon, Elliot.
You don't mess with Pokemon. This would have been Pokemon Emerald 2. It probably like just came out, so that was hours of work gone for him. But
my son's playing one of the Zeldas right now, and he had to like resave something. He got stuck somewhere, and he's so mad. He was like, "That was hours of work." I was like, "Okay, dude, it's all good." Like, it's just you just don't know. It's a lot of there's serious business with the video games, but
it's serious business.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was one of the like funnier memories that I remember growing up.
So, can you take us back to your childhood? Like, what was a typical day looks like when growing up with your siblings? And if you don't mind, do you want to tell the besties about your brother's special needs?
Oh, yeah. So my brother was diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder when he was about like 4 or 5 years old. Mm-hmm. I remember pretty clearly one of his psychiatrists at the time kind of saying like he was a quote unquote textbook case for Asperger's. Because again, that was a term that was more commonly used when we were kids.
Then, yeah.
Now we kind of accept the term like autism spectrum disorder because it is a spectrum. My brother is considered what is called high functioning. He can communicate. He's pretty self-reliant, but there's definitely still some needs that he needs assistance with. which is totally fine. As far as growing up goes, it really kind of depends on what era of our childhood we're talking about, because since he was diagnosed relatively early in the grand scheme of things, I find a lot of it was able to be kind of navigated well by my parents. They definitely had a good routine set, and I mean, it's kind of like with any other child growing up. You hit the teenage years, hormones start making everything a little bit different. Things that worked for a while stopped working, and we had to adjust and kind of go from there. But my brother and I went to the same elementary school. So that kind of era is just, we went to school together. He was in the year above me. He was in a special needs program there. My parents specifically chose to live in the area they did because the school district had fantastic special needs programs. I was in the more traditional track. We would get home from school. His kind of special interest is video games, Disney, any sort of animation history. So a lot of our childhood, we were very indoorsy kids, as I like to joke. And it also kind of aligned with my interests too, which I think kind of helped not only my brother and I's relationship, but my parents and my parents' relationship to both my brother and I, because we had kind of similar interests. I was the library kid. I would go and check out like 10 to 12 books once a week and read them all by Saturday. So, I would be sitting in my room reading, or I would sit and watch him play video games. There's a really funny comedian I can't remember the name of right now, but who joked that older siblings were the first Let's Players because you would just sit and watch them play. And
Yes.
I love telling Troy that joke because he thinks it's very funny. But essentially, life was relatively standard. There was just certain things where it was like, I remember very distinctly, beginning of the school year was always rough because Troy had to go in for his IEPs, which IEPs were for kind of like going over with his teachers what he needs, with his caretakers, kind of just like, hey, challenges he had the last school year, challenges he might have in this upcoming school year, kind of goals and milestones that need to be set. Sometimes I was involved with these, sometimes I wasn't. But most of the time it was my parents having to go and advocate for my brother having to go advocate for himself. Small things like that. Therapy was very consistent in my house pretty much as soon as he received his diagnosis. A thing that I find a big blessing now as an adult, that therapy was exceptionally normalized in my family.
Mhm.
That's wonderful that your parents were willing to help you with that and saw the need, because at that time it wasn't as common as it is now.
Oh, totally. It was, I mean, especially when my brother received his diagnosis, that was, I mean, the era of that 1998 study trying to connect vaccines to autism.
Right.
So, like, especially as an adult, I truly feel for my mom and dad, where, I'm sure every parent they were interacting with was, well, did you get your kids vaccinated? Oh, did you let them, play with lead paint? Like,
Yeah.
kind of like trying to blame my parents.
Yes,
Yeah.
right. We fault them for that. That's
yeah.
that was
But
that
I
time.
remember, like, I mean, just like I remember my mom saying, like, both of my children are vaccinated. One of my children has autism,
Mm-hmm.
and that study was debunked.
Yeah, because the data was bad on that.
The
So
data was so bad. I
yeah.
remember reading over that study when I was in college, and I said, I can't even believe they let him publish this. Not to talk smack on this guy, but I will talk a little smack on this guy.
We learned about it in our data and analytics class that I took for our master's degrees. We read the whole thing, and I was just like, I don't even like to do analytics, but that stuff was all made up. It was crazy. Yeah.
No,
It
it's
was
crazy. Stuff like that. And yeah, it was a very interesting era to grow up in, and I truly feel for my parents having to navigate that, especially now as an adult. I didn't really experience that as much, on my end as being a sibling, because I was not usually blamed for it or
Yeah.
considered part of the problem, I suppose, for that.
or responsible for taking care of. Yeah.
Responsible, that's a good word for it.
So, at what age did you understand about your sibling's disability? Like, how did that understanding shape your world?
My parents very much were honest about it almost as soon as I could comprehend it.
Uh-huh.
It was introduced as like, hey, he has needs that are different than yours. He communicates them differently than you. He is not wrong. You are not wrong. They're just different.
Mhm.
So, like, I was very much introduced to the word autism very early on because my parents didn't think it was something to have to hide, really, or that it would even be helpful for me to not have the language. And same thing with him. It was very much like, language is a powerful tool. You should be able to say, like, hey, I am autistic. I have special needs. These are, this is what I'm advocating for.
Yeah.
So my parents were very open with that, which I think, I'm not a parent myself, but I do think is a very powerful tool to give kids the language to be able to advocate for themselves.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so empowering. That's just a great thing to do as a parent. And anyone in your life, if you can advocate for them. Do you think that there was a time, did your sibling have any kind of like regressions or speaking delays or anything like that?
He did. It was one of the first signs that my parents noticed, and was one of those, when they go in for regular checkups when he was about 1 or 2 years old, he had speech delays, and they said, this is an early sign of autism. This is something, to keep an eye out for. I was a very talkative child. My parents very fondly tell the story to anyone who will listen of when I was really little and just starting to talk. Like, I picked up speech really quickly. So even though I was a year and a half younger than him, I would talk for him.
Right, you'd like parrot for him.
So what I do is we'd be sitting together and I go, hi, Troy, how are you? I'm good, Elliot. How are you? How was your day today? What did we do? Like, I would talk for him and he would just sit and smile and just he enjoyed being part of it. But it was very sweet, my parents thought.
Sweet.
And I'm still very much the more talkative sibling, but it was one of the first signs that doctors did note, saying like, hey, speech regression is something to look out for as he gets older. It's not the only sign that can,
Right.
Speech regression can be a ton of things, but it was based on a couple of other thoughts. They're like, well, he doesn't have any sort of, hearing loss. He doesn't have any structurally wrong. So something you should check in. And they did, and they were right.
That's interesting that you say that, because I did the same thing with my sibling, and he's neurotypical, but I would talk for him because I was his older sibling. So it's just so he didn't talk as fast as me because I would just speak for him. Sometimes I do that for my fiance too. So
I also do that for my fiance too. He's just shy.
Those things you learn as a kid that follow you into adulthood.
100%. It's something I've talked about with a couple of people who are siblings of people on the spectrum or similar siblings with similar needs.
Yeah.
They're like, it's kind of one of those, we joke, normal origin stories for us, where we're like, oh, you talk for your sibling? Okay, cool.
So, were there any moments growing up where you felt really proud of your siblings? And do you remember any of them standing out?
Oh, yeah. I mean, there was always small wins and big wins. I mean, some of the smaller wins would just be there's this, it's hard to describe, but there's this, especially when we were growing up, there was this idea that someone with autism lacked empathy, where I truly refuse to believe that, because I think he is one of the most empathetic people I've ever met. He just expresses empathy in a slightly different way. So, the way, someone who's neurotypical might express empathy by, being there when someone's emotional or something like that, he may not be the most comfortable with, but it would be small things where he would just kind of walk into my room and be like, I caught your favorite Pokemon. Do you want to see it? And I go, absolutely, I want to see it. So there's small wins like that where it's just like, oh, you thought of me. That's excellent. And I mean, there's big wins too. I remember my parents being so emotional when my brother graduated high school, because I can't remember the exact statistic, but it is not a super high number for people on the spectrum to graduate high school, and my brother did. And he has gotten multiple certificates at community college as well. Like, education is something that he struggled with for a very long time, because, I mean, the traditional education system is basically the autistic version of hell, where it's sit down, be quiet, talk about things you don't like, which, to be fair, most people don't like, but we just kind of tolerate it. No one wants to do that, but it's definitely not super fun. Well, I mean, some of my friends are academics and they like it, but so I mean, him graduating high school was a huge win, and I was kind of in the teenage trenches at the time, so I didn't really enjoy it as much as I should have, really. But now as an adult, I get to go, that was really cool that he did that and had the support. His care team in high school was incredible. He was kind of did almost like a hybrid track of like some classes were in a traditional setting, some were in a more like smaller special needs setting, and he thrived pretty well in there, and to this day still loves learning, which I think is very cool.
That's
What a
awesome.
huge achievement.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm actually proud of your parents, like a lot. Like to have a son being able to graduate, like you said, like the odds for autistic individuals to make it to graduation is very low, but that is amazing. Like, yeah, that's great.
No, I mean, it was my mom, talked about this with me when I was older, but she's like, for pretty much as soon as he got his diagnosis, she was told, like, don't expect milestones like that. Like, expect milestones like, he can sit through a movie or something like that, like small things like that. And not that those aren't excellent milestones for someone of different abilities, but to be able to go above and beyond, because my parents love and know he is capable. And I'm so happy he had the support to do that. And I wish more people could have the support to be able to support their children like that. Right. But it is freaking hard, even with support. It was not an easy ride, but everyone made it through relatively unscathed as far as I'm concerned.
And advocating for anyone, but especially a loved one, it takes a lot of strength and time, and it's not an easy effort, but it's obviously important and an effort with passion for your parents. So that's great
absolutely.
to be able to do that.
And I have gone to the movies with Troy and his parents, and he sits through the movies just fine, like everybody else.
I was going to say, movies for him, no problem. He loves a movie.
Like, we've gone to movie outings, and it's just like, it's great.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So, okay, did you ever feel like your sibling received more attention than you? And how did you feel made sense as a kid?
Oh, I mean, absolutely. There was definitely times, especially where I was younger, where I won't even say it like I felt it unfair, but just like, for example, one of the big ones I was thinking of was like homework, because he needed plenty of support on that. And, with some things, I never really excelled in math. I was much more of a English and science kid. So, it wasn't that I would be like afraid to ask for help on math homework, but I was like, my parents are working with Troy right now. I'll see what I can do by myself, or, I'll get to it a little later. So it was never out of resentment. It was truly just like, no, he needs it. That's fine. Homework was a really big one, because that would be like the evening activity, Dad would be home from work and he'd be like, okay, we're getting homework done after dinner. And sometimes it was climbing a mountain, and sometimes it was much easier, but that would be a big one. And I very much was an independent kid. Like, my parents to this day were like, you were very like independent and self-motivated. And I truly credit that more to being a reader than anything. I, wasn't really like, I mean, I did like, I think soccer, like, for a semester, like a couple months or something, I would try stuff, dance, things like that. But I was very much like, I liked more solo activities. I liked drawing, I liked reading. So I would, be in my room doing my homework. And sometimes there would be frustration while doing homework, either on, Troy's side or my parents' side. Because I mean, my parents got home from a, full 8-hour day of work, and now they have to do, 5th grade homework.
It's
not exactly
exhausting.
Yeah. Having to remember how to do all that again.
Yeah.
And a lot of it, they changed, like the math stuff. They changed all of that, the core math stuff. And my son's in 7th grade, but yeah, there's times where I'm like, I didn't learn this until high school. Why are you doing this right now? Like, yeah, it's not always easy. And then you're exhausted from working a full day. But it does sound like you were really independent, and that probably did help with a lot of not having a bunch of jealousy, like knowing, I mean, your parents did tell you like there's differences and you have different needs, and you just kind of rolled with it, which is awesome.
Yeah, and if I reached out, I was always given assistance, but I just usually preferred to be more independent. I still am very much that. My fiance to this day is like, ask for help, stop it. I'm like, no, I can do it.
So would you say at this point, like, you are the older sister or like the older sibling and he's the younger?
I think this is a really interesting conversation because it was funny you were mentioning tarot earlier. We joke about like my friends and I joke about, someone's star sign is whatever, but you got to find out if they're only sibling, oldest, middle, or youngest, because
Yeah.
that tells you more about their personality.
Yeah.
But both myself and my best friend Glenn are younger siblings who act like older siblings due to having siblings who had different needs.
Yeah.
Right.
So almost everyone's like, oh no, you're definitely older sibling energy. And I was like, nope. I do think there's definitely some aspects of being an older sibling that I identify with more, but I also hold the chaotic energy of a youngest sibling for sure.
You got the best of all worlds.
I do think it also affects like the age difference as well. Like Jen was talking about with being only about a year apart from her sister.
Yeah.
Right.
Troy and I only being about like 18 months apart makes it so like it's actually another, speaking of another thing people identify with, Troy and I are right on the millennial Gen Z cusp. So he's considered millennial and I'm considered Gen Z just based on our birth year.
Right.
But I have been told I have a lot more millennial traits. And I said, oh, it's because, I grew up around the older sibling who was in millennial stuff. So, I had Pokemon, not Digimon and stuff like that.
There's a difference. There's a difference.
And there's a difference. And people in their 30s will argue about it.
Yes.
But yeah, so I feel like there's definitely some aspects of older sibling that I identify with more just due to my more caretaker role. But also there's definitely, I don't not identify with younger sibling.
So were there any moments where you thought this wouldn't be okay if I did this or whatever, but where the rules were different for you versus your siblings?
Oh, absolutely. The main thing would be like meltdowns. Very common thing that can happen with people on the spectrum is just, emotional meltdown, breakdown, and they can happen anywhere. It can be public, it can be private, it can be any sort of trigger. Usually some form of overstimulation will trigger it, which happened a lot, especially when we were kids. Even to this day, he's still not a fan of loud noises. But, if we were in, super crowded place, or if something really frustrating was happening, we were in the car and there was traffic, or if we were waiting in a long line, sometimes that could trigger a meltdown. And it was one of those, especially the older we got, the more I went, I would not be allowed to do that. And, he was definitely given grace for that, as everyone should. But that was my first moment of, oh, I would not be able to do that. This is something that only he can do. And not even that he could do. It was just like, this is like, if I were to do this, people would think something was very wrong with me.
I have meltdowns and long lines too.
Yeah.
Just like,
Yeah, I tell folks all the time that overstimulation happens to everybody. We just have different language for it in the neurotypical community, where it's just like, oh, I'm overwhelmed, I'm burnt out, and it's like you're facing overstimulation, and you just were not given. You were, socially pressured into not being able to have a meltdown, and it's not necessarily that meltdowns are good or cathartic, but sometimes it's what the body wants.
Yeah.
Well, when you're dysregulated, like there's just things that you naturally body wants to do. And like you said, everyone could be dysregulated or overwhelmed. We might call it something different, but it's all the same kind of umbrella. And I think that sometimes people who have autism, and they actually understand how to regulate themselves better than someone who's neurotypical, because neurotypical people aren't practicing that as much.
100%.
Because I've seen people who have I have trouble regulating myself. So
yeah,
I think
it's difficult if you don't have the practice for it or you don't have the language for it. And I think that's going back to empathy. I think that's one of the main things that I've learned from being, Troy's sibling is, how to regulate myself and what language to use to be able to say, oh, these are the needs that I need to communicate, even if, I have a larger, vocabulary to communicate that with. They are all the needs that we all have. It's just, different communication styles.
Yeah.
Did you think that there was anyone that you in your family that like made you feel seen for who you were, even as a sibling of someone who has special needs?
My mom's mom, my grandmother, Grammy,
Mhm.
she very much encouraged me to be a reader. We would talk about books all the time. We still do. She was very much my kind of respite from
Awesome.
being, because sometimes it was just like, hey, let's go to Grammy's house, because my parents just needed time, and grandmothers are great when it comes to free babysitting.
Right.
And it was great because my brother would be playing a video game and I could go and sit with my Grammy and we could talk about reading, we could talk about books. She takes to the library. Even to this day, she makes me feel very seen. We are very similar. We even look exceptionally similar. It'll be very funny where like older photos will come out. Like her sister will, my great aunt will post photos of her on Facebook for her birthday or something like that. And my mom will send it to me and be all like, she's like truly copy paste in some of these photos, like they down to the expression. But my grandmother grew up with a handful of siblings versus myself. I only grew up with the one. So she was an older sibling and she's just like, hey, being in charge, being caretaker, when you're an older sibling, she's like, I can relate to you in that regard. But, she was also an advocate for Troy as well.
Awesome.
So it's nice to be able to not have to like explain the whole life story. It's nice to have family who was there the whole time and be like, yep, I know exactly what he's like. I know exactly what you're going through. Let's focus on you right now.
That's great.
Well, good for Grammys.
Yeah.
Yay, Grammys.
So looking back, did you think that what felt like favoritism was actual favoritism, or does it look different as you know now as an adult?
Absolutely. Yeah. I don't even think at the time I saw it as favoritism. It was truly just, oh, he needs more than I do. And there would definitely be some times I would be frustrated and be like, I need right now, but that can't override the needs that he always has. So that's when I would tend to kind of isolate myself more as a kid and be like, even though I was very independent, sometimes that independence can show up more as isolation of just like, I am closing my door. I don't want to talk to anyone right now. Which, I mean, fight, flight, or freeze. I was definitely more the freeze and the flee. So I do feel like even if it wasn't favoritism, his needs were very consistently met. And sometimes if I, didn't have the, strength or will to communicate my needs, I just would shut down. As an adult, I can now see that and be like, well, no one could have known what you needed if you didn't communicate it. But at the time, it can be, I'm sure it was very isolating.
Yeah.
And, I still don't find it favoritism even now thinking about it.
Yeah.
That's compassion that you have and understanding is even as a kid is wonderful because sometimes my mom used to have to count our Christmas gifts to make sure we had even amounts so we wouldn't fight with each other. And I was like, so sometimes she'd wrap up separate pairs of socks so we would have the same amount. So I think that you having that awareness, especially when you were younger, is really awesome. And you found your way to handle it on your own,
Yeah.
I mean, isolating's hard though, but do you think that did you seek refuge in your room a lot or with other people? How did you help handle that?
Yeah.
I'm very much an introvert, even, to this day as an adult. I very much loved being in my room because I was like, cool, I can read. I am in control of everything in this space. I can play music. I can do what I need in this space. Even to this day, I am a homeowner, and sometimes I'm like, I want to be in my room. And I was like, I have this whole house to myself. I could go be out in my living room, doing whatever I want. But sometimes I'm like, I need to be in my room, my little nest.
Exactly.
Okay. Can you tell us the music of your time and the books you were reading when you were a teenager?
Oh my gosh. I was definitely not following the mainstream music. My parents, one of the many quirks of my parents, and Jen, you'll probably laugh at this more knowing my dad, they refused kids' music. My brother and I, when we were little, they were like, okay, you guys can have the Wiggles and stuff. But pretty much as soon as we knew what a CD was, they were like, excellent, you're listening to our music. So like I grew up with like Liz Phair and stuff like that. A lot
Love
of
Liz Phair.
Incubus, a lot of excellent 90s
Yes.
music. So I was in the era of, the Justin Biebers and the pop musics and the Britneys and the NSYNCs, but I was not listening to them because my parents are like, you're listening to our music. We drove around a lot. I just feel like that's a very Californian growing up thing, is you're just in the car a lot. We were dedicated to K-Rock.
Yes.
So whatever K-Rock was playing in 2005, that was what we were doing.
That was your jam.
That was my jam. I do have a very distinct music memory though. So one of my favorite, one of the first bands I associate with being like, this was a band that I sought out and like learned to love myself, was Paramore.
That's a
great
good
band.
Paramore.
Love
Yeah.
Paramore.
Yeah.
Haley Williams. Yeah.
Haley Williams, an icon to my life still. I remember being in the car with my mom, and she, the most devastating thing you could do to a teenager, your mom going, oh, I think you'd like this song, and turning the radio up, and me loving it because it was Mystery Business from Paramore. And I had to be, even to this day, I'm like, yeah, my mom introduced me to Paramore. That's not cool, but my mom also loves Paramore. We went and saw Paramore live, like right after Riot, and then they first did their tour for that Riot album, and
Wow.
so that was like the first band I remember loving, and I remember being like, and my mom introduced me to it. Same thing happened when I was in high school. One of my other favorite bands is the XX. My dad was like, this new song's playing on Sirius XM. You should listen to it. I think you like it. And I was like, Dad, stop. And then it played, and I was like, this is awesome.
Your parents have good taste in music for sure. I'm all like,
they have excellent taste in music. It's
you're lucky.
Yeah, and I just think it's so funny when I'll tell people about growing up and they're like, oh, what was your first CD? And I was like, it was Save Ferris's self-titled album. And people go,
great CD.
And they're like, my friends will be like, mine was Britney Spears. And I was like, yeah. It's a little different.
I'm all like, you're a classy lady. If I heard like, oh, it's Save Ferris, I'd be like, this lady knows music, versus like, oh, it's Britney Spears. Hit me one more time. I'm like, they don't know music.
Well, it just shows your palate was already set real high out the gate. Yeah.
I truly, my parents like to joke that if they made my taste really good ahead of time, it ended up saving them time in the future. Another kind of similar growing up story was alcohol was never like super taboo thing in my house growing up. Like, here, have a beer. But it was very much like, if you are going to try it, you can have a sip of mine kind of thing. And my parents do like to joke that they're like, if we make you a snob about alcohol, you won't overdo it in college. And it 100% worked.
Totally worked.
I went to USC for undergrad. So basically like they just hand you a beer as soon as you walk in on orientation. And I just remember going to like a fundraiser party when I was like a junior in college, and someone handed me like a Keystone Light, and I went like, ew. Because I would be, the first beer I ever had was like my dad being like, I guess you can try this. And it was like a Blue Moon. Like it was still like way nicer than
not bathtub water, basically.
Not whatever was found in someone's gutter. So my parents were like that with music and with alcohol, and it worked exceptionally well.
I'm taking parenting advice from your folks.
I know, right?
It worked great. If you don't make it taboo, they're not going to try and seek it out.
Well, it's not as alluring, right? If it's no big deal. Yeah.
Why would I want to drink something that's gross when I could drink something that's tasty?
Okay, so back on topic. How do you think growing up with a sibling like your brother shaped you as today?
It 100% made me more empathetic. Like, I mean, I was kind of had to learn empathy from an early age of, even my parents introducing, the idea of neurodivergence to me as a child, being like, hey, he has needs that are different than yours. They are not worse. They are just different. These are what he needs, and here's how we're providing them. And because of that, I went, oh, okay. People have different needs. Sometimes you need to provide those different needs to them, and help how you can. Because I wouldn't consider myself like, I didn't have like a third parent role. It's something that we talk about a lot in the families of neurodivergent communities, where it's like siblings can feel like they can take on a third parent role. I didn't feel a lot of that growing up, which is excellent, because I did feel like Troy and I were close enough in age that it felt like more we were like allies. But sometimes it felt like more that I was like allies with my parents and just like, hey, you're Troy's age, can you talk to him about this kind of thing?
Yeah.
Versus, me having to like come in as like a disciplinary role or like you have to do this kind of thing. It was more just like, hey, you will understand this more as someone who is close to his age, So I did feel that was important and good growing up. And it has taught me a lot of empathy. One thing that is kind of a odd side effect of it is I tend to surround myself with people on the spectrum. Like two of my best friends, like multiple partners I've had in my life over the time, like have been on the spectrum. So my very best friend likes to joke that I have autism by proxy. Because they're like, oh yeah, you already know to turn down the music and stuff like that. They're like, you already know not to have the bad light bulbs. And I was like, yes, it's true. It's been something that's my whole life, and it's not necessarily something that's my need, but just something that I have known to be a need my whole life. That's like, oh, okay, this is important. Let's do it like this. And I tend to attract a lot of people with that neurodivergence because of it.
And probably because you understand and it's not a big deal to you, really. Like that just comes second nature.
100% second nature.
And you can make them feel safe. So that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I feel like you're bringing in their authentic self because you set the mood up to be like, for them to be like 100% them, present in your presence or like the surroundings. And also, I think you have like a really high EQ, because I'm just like, dang, even I just wouldn't even consider that. I feel like I kind of would be like, this is the best I can do right now.
And sometimes the best is what you can do. And, there wasn't, I'm not trying to say I'm, some saint who's like, yes, I'm the representative of the autism community. It's just, sometimes the best is just like, hey, I'm here to help. If you need the help, let me know what you need. And if you can't express that need, here's what I can recommend. And that is also okay too. Like, it really is an individualized relationship. I mean, it's just like any other friendship or relationship. It's just, you can you don't have to automatically intuit everything for everyone, but as you get to know, so me and my best friend have been friends for over 10 years. So it's just like, yeah, I know what this person likes because we've been friends for 10 years.
Yeah,
it comes more intuitively than people expect, but especially with neurodivergences, it's just like, oh, we don't like these kind of light bulbs in our house, so let's change that.
You're like, why would anyone have anything else? I mean, that's
a little bit, which is why I get the autism by proxy joke from my friends.
Right.
They're like, you don't even experience it, yet you know it.
Could you give us a pro tip about the light bulbs? Because I'm all like, what? I didn't know about the light bulb thing. Like,
it's so, especially when it comes to like sensory things, I find a lot of people on the spectrum, there are certain things that are just like sensory needs. Ones that are super common are sound. A lot of people on the spectrum do not like loud noises, sudden noises, certain types of noises. That's pretty common. That's why you'll definitely see a lot of people on the spectrum utilizing like headphones, noise canceling, things like that. But even like visual stimuli or touch stimuli, certain fabrics. I know, for example, like my brother hates like ties, like anything that constricts his neck, so he will never wear a tie, and that's okay.
So I'm assuming when you get married, you're not going to ask him, hey, could you wear a bow tie?
Absolutely not.
No, that wouldn't be nice. No.
No, we were joking about, I was talking about it with him and my parents, and I was like, okay, it's going to be November and it's going to be cold, so I was like, nice sweater, button down shirt, you don't have to button to the top button. He's like, deal. But also, like, my fiance, the man I'm marrying, is like, I'm not wearing a bow tie. And I was like, okay, it's your wedding too, what do you want to wear?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, and with other visual stimuli, I find it's not, I mean, in a way to generalize, that people on the spectrum tend to like warmer light versus like colder light.
Okay.
Like, like blue toned light tends not to be as comfortable to look at. Visual stimuli, you'll find a lot of like, they like having things in certain orders, not necessarily in like a compulsive way, but it's just like, cool, this is where I like my things to be. And that's where you get a lot of the like organized chaos, quote unquote, where we all like, I know where everything is.
Yes.
And all of those, like basically any sort of sensory input can be adjusted person to person. But yeah, for him, clothing was a big one. He didn't wear jeans for a very long time, which I find jeans very comfortable, but he's like, nope, don't like them. And I'm like, hey, I get that. So like he didn't wear jeans for my brother didn't wear jeans for like a very long time, but things change. Food is also a huge one, especially in the community. There's a lot of talk of what's called like safe foods, where it's like, I know I can always eat this and I know it's not going to be different. Because especially a lot of things like, more processed foods are very consistent, which is great for someone on the spectrum where it's like, okay,
Right.
this is always going to taste the same every time versus like, I mean, I love grapes, but sometimes you eat a grape and it sucks. And sometimes you eat a grape and it's awesome. And that's, sometimes if you're even just a little too overstimulated or having, too much sensory stuff, even something like that is like, okay, nope, can't handle it. Not doing this right now. So there's tons of small needs like that. Like even like, for my friends, it's like, cool, I will always have these snacks in my cupboard. So if one of my friends is coming over, I know we've got the safe food. For one of my friends, it's applesauce. And I was like, hey, man, I get that. Applesauce is great. My best friend's is specifically the Trader Joe's dark chocolate covered little like mandarin sticks. So good.
Those are so good.
I haven't had those. I have to try them now.
Very good. Very consistent. Trader Joe's always has them. But yeah, it's things like that. Like aspects of environments that can be controlled. And of course, it varies from person to person, but I tend to find those tend to be more common for people that I've been around.
So I take it taking them to Coachella would not be a good thing.
For the most part, not really. But one of the other things that we've kind of like discovered over the last, like 20, 30 years with autism spectrum disorder has been there's kind of like almost like two camps of people on the spectrum where there's like sensory seeking and then sensory avoidant. Some people are sensory seeking where they those will be the people who love going to like punk rock shows or they love roller coasters or things like it'll be very common with sometimes with people on the spectrum, they'll be seeking pain or repetitive motion. That is a more sensory seeking behavior versus sensory avoidant where it's I don't like loud sounds or something like that. And another reason why we refer to it more as autism spectrum disorder now is because it's a spectrum where it's sometimes they're avoidant on certain things and seeking on other things. Certain sensations might be soothing, rocking back and forth, seeking some sort of stimulation, stimming, things like that. That's a sensory seeking behavior versus a sensory avoidant one. So, I mean, I am sure there is somebody on the spectrum who loves Coachella because it is loud and smelly and sweaty. That's not me, though.
You're I'm not doing that.
No.
Has your role as siblings changed over the years? Have you guys had different, you said sometimes you were peers. Do you still feel that way or?
To a certain extent, for sure. I feel, especially as I've gotten older and kind of taken on more responsibility, I have felt slightly more responsibility towards him. One of the big things when I purchased my home was I wanted to be able to have space for an ADU to potentially, if needed, whether by necessity or just by option, to be able to have Troy live with me in a separate space, but that he could still access me for any needs. So that was very important to me in the home buying process. Things like that when my parents were working on their wills, just fun grown-up stuff, and they were adulting. Yeah. We love adulting here, especially great phone call to get from your parents being hey, just want to let you know, in the case that both of us were to die in a horrific accident, he would, here's all the paperwork that you would need for Troy. And I'm awesome. Why are we doing this phone call at 11 a.m.? A certain morbidity level you reach when you reach a certain age. Although my dad has been 28 for however long I've been alive. So
he's still 28.
He's still 28.
He's still 28. I'm this guy has more energy than I am. I'm I'm going to take a nap under my desk right now.
Yeah, besties, you unfortunately don't get to see what my dad looks like, but I unfortunately had to grow up with my friends thinking that my dad was hot. So.
Oh my God.
That sounds like that was a tough thing.
The realization. Oh.
He's going to be very embarrassed by that. But...
James, if you're listening, now you know.
Yeah. Dad, I will not tell you which of my friends said that.
Like the song Stacy's Mom.
Yes.
Elliot's dad.
My dad is fun and full of energy, and you wouldn't know how old he was if he didn't have white hair at this point. So
Yeah.
I mean, age is just a number, right? It
Truly.
could be as young as you feel.
That's why he's been 28 for so long.
He has great skin, I have to say, like, energy-wise and everything. Like, yeah, just like Elliot said, his hair is the only dead giveaway. Other than that, he just looks like an old 28-year-old dude.
And sunscreen's really important to our family, too.
Yes.
Sunscreen and therapy.
That's going to be your takeaways from this.
Correct. Correct.
That's awesome.
So, what is the hardest part when it happens? Like, do you think the caregiving role is going to be like that people really talk about?
Oh, I mean, we kind of touched on this earlier, like when you don't have the energy in your caregiving role, because it's hard because in your mind, you're like, I know that I need to be there for them, but we are all human beings, and sometimes you can't give 100%, and that's 100% okay. But it's hard to not beat yourself up about it. Like even in a caregiving role as a parent, or the slight caregiving role we have with our partners, it's like, you can't always give 100% because sometimes you don't have 100%. And I think it's so important for caregivers to know, like, even if it's not 100%, giving what you do have is enough. Like, and it can be easy to beat yourself up about it and go like, because I can't give 100%, I shouldn't give anything at all. But an 89 is just fine.
I think an 89 is great.
Right?
I think an 89 is great.
Yeah, it's like a B plus. We're good.
Yeah, like exactly. About like,
D's get degrees in some cases.
Exactly.
How is your partner, your fiance, about your brother and knowing that like you're looking at houses, for an ADU and all of that? What have you and your partner talked about with that? And was that an important part of your relationship?
Absolutely. It was, I mean, with my partner and I, I've always been very transparent about Troy, and he knows. It's almost like, when we started dating, he knows that my cat Elton is an important part, and there was no choosing between him and Elton, but luckily him and my cat get along very well. Troy and my partner Hayden also get along very well, but because I mean they have common interests too, so it definitely helps. Like if I was marrying someone who had none of the same interests as Troy, I honestly don't think I would want to marry them. But luckily, Hayden has similar interests to Troy as well, so it gives them commonalities to talk about. But they're also both like not super talkative guys, so it's great because they can just kind of be in the same room together and be like, "Yep, this is good." It's very masculine, honestly. But Hayden knew it was a non-negotiable with me. It was just like, Troy will be living, on our property at some point. And he's like, great, awesome. Let me know how I can be there to help too. And that's, I mean, definitely gave him some points in that column.
Yeah, that's an awesome partner. So he just knew like that's your family and this is what we're doing.
Yeah, I mean, it's a similar conversation that I think everyone getting married has, where it's like, okay, what happens to our parents when we get older? What's a caretaking role in that? It's just a similar conversation. My fiance is also from the UK, so there's also lots of fun paperwork stuff to deal with that. So it's just lots of talking when it comes to the logistics of this. So it's just another thing to tick off the box of logistics, and it was a very easy yes for him. So I mean, there's a reason that he gets to join the family.
Yeah,
that's great. So when you are burnt out and everything, the question then goes to who takes care of you when you are now at 0% of energy?
I mean, it really depends. I have a fantastic network of friends. I have my partner, and I have a lot of tools for self-regulation. Sometimes self-regulation looks like I am going to come home from work. I'm going to take a hot shower. No one is going to speak to me. I'm going to go to bed. And by tomorrow morning, I will have energy again. And sometimes I just need to get away from the slog of life and, let's go and go out to eat somewhere, or let's go, I very much have been enjoying I suppose it's a trend, but the I don't know if you guys have heard of this trend of admin nights with your friends where it's like, hey,
Yes.
I really need to take care of this, but I just don't have the executive function to call the DMV to set up an appointment. And it's like, if I'm there in the room with you and I dial the number and hold up the phone to you, you take care of the rest, you will get it done.
It's like body doubling, but for
Absolutely.
these life things that you struggle and put off doing. I think it's a
Mhm.
wonderful thing to do.
I never heard of that. Like,
Oh, you haven't?
no,
Awesome.
because like,
And I've done co-working days too, where it's like you have like 2 hours where you sit and you're on the screen and you're doing whatever tedious, annoying things you wouldn't want to do, but you're doing them because someone else is there with you.
Yeah.
that is
Jen's mind blown.
yeah. Like,
It-
what?
You just can't see it, but she just exploded.
Just kind of like, what?
It's truly a game changer because sometimes, you'll get the to-do list and you're like, oh, I don't have the energy to be an adult today, but I can, call up my best friend who lives 10 minutes away. And I'm like, hey, can you just like sit in my living room with me while I figure out how to order a birth certificate so that I can get my marriage license? And she's like, yeah, totally. She's like, cool, I'm bringing chips and salsa.
That is so crazy. My mind is like blown. Yeah, like Jen just said, I'm just kind of like, what?
It's a game changer. It really
so
makes
good.
Sundays, it makes the Sunday admin day that much better when it's like, I get a little reward if my friend is here.
Yeah, like if you wanted to do that, Jen, where you're like, I need to work on a new version of my resume or something, then we could just like, all right, let's hang out, let's do it.
Because most of the time when I'm like in that mode, okay, this is why I'm such a shitty study partner, is because I just want to talk to you. I don't really want to study, and then I'll incorporate like, oh, did you know Charlemagne did this, blah, or whatever, and we make it to a conversation, and then I'll talk about, oh, so I heard about your boyfriend, or did you hear about this? It's just, it's so
that sounds like it's a distraction.
yeah,
to you.
that it's
Okay.
I can't have
That's
that.
why I like what Jen was saying about like co-working, where it's just like, hey, you have Zoom or Skype or Discord open, and it's just like you see another person, where if you start to kind of wander off and you go, I'm wandering off, and then they can go, hey, pay attention.
Yep.
Because that's what I love it for the admin stuff, where I like I'm like, oh, I gotta dig around and look for my original birth certificate, so I can make sure I get everything right for the copy. And then I'm going find something else in my drawer, and I'm like, ooh, cool. And then my best friend will be like, stop it.
Yeah, you can't side quest when you've got a person.
Cannot side quest. That was just my most recent task, where I was like, I need someone to be here, otherwise I will get distracted.
This is so crazy. I just learned something new today.
It rocks.
It does. It's amazing. It helps so much, especially when you have like anxiety for different tasks or different things, or you're dreading getting something done. It's a great tool.
Okay. What is the one thing you wish that people would understand about your family and families with special needs children are like yours?
I feel like we get like two different camps of people, where people just kind of either praise us as, like angels or guardians, or people who, I mean, it's a much smaller sect now, but growing up, people who would blame my parents for my sibling's disability, or, one thing or another. And I find that it's coming from a good place, and people are like, oh, your parents must be angels for dealing with your brother, which I just like hate that, like, dealing with.
Yeah.
Because it's like, first of all, you don't get to you don't get to choose how your child comes out. They come out the person they are, and you can do anything in your power to control it, but they are going to be who they are. And if you come to a place of understanding and support, they are going to flourish, versus if you try to force them to be one thing or another, they're not going to. So right. I do think my parents are angels for other reasons, but I think they were doing their absolute best with my brother and with myself. I can't say that I was the easiest teenager to deal with. But I don't think that there's a martyrdom with having a special needs child that people expect. It's just like, it's like having a kid, just with slightly different rule sets.
Nice. Okay, this is going to be the last question. What would you say to someone who just started to navigate life as a sibling of someone with a disability?
Ooh, good question. I mean, it really just kind of depends on where in your own personal journey you are. I suppose I was one of the lucky ones to know pretty early on versus something that was discovered later. But I mean, I guess kind of going back to, it doesn't always have to be 100% with caretaking. Sometimes it just has to be what you have that day. And they are the same person that you already know. You just have slightly better vocabulary for what they're experiencing. And I think the main thing with it is listening to, the person you are caring for. Like, especially when it comes to autism, it really affects every person differently. It is a spectrum. So what my brother needs may not be what every person in the community needs. What my brother feels and experiences about autism is not, the pillar of the community. He does not speak for everyone with autism. And as caretaker, you can't either. So I think it's important to know that as a caretaker, you may not be an expert in an entire neurodivergence, but you are going to become an expert in your person. And I think that's awesome. And it's a privilege and an honor, really.
That's great. Where can our besties find you?
Where can your besties find me? Well, I'm a professional body piercer, so if that's something any of your besties are interested in,
Awesome.
Garden Grove, California. I
Ooh,
do those
okay.
at Last Piercing. Otherwise, I'm pretty private on the socials, but I might comment on or talk to any besties on the Jen and Jens if you post about me. So if there's any further questions, I'm always happy to answer them.
Awesome. Thank
Great.
you.
Yeah.
All right. So, Jen, what is your burnout meter?
My burnout meter, I think my burnout meter is like a 4 right now.
Yeah.
It's very much like I'm exhausted. I'm exhausted right now. So, I think that's just life in my 40s right now. But how about you? What's your burnout meter?
I got a no, another rejection from the job market. So it's like a 5-6. It kind of sucks. Like finding a job in this time sucks. But I'm trying to be hopeful, and also I went to urgent care this week. It turns out I have pneumonia.
Which is crazy. And you're doing a podcast with pneumonia.
Yeah.
No big
So,
deal.
Bestie, sorry if I sound like the last couple episodes, I sounded like not, my voice wasn't as great.
It sounds raspy and amazing. What are you talking
Yeah,
about?
it's sexy, but yeah, it's also I didn't think like pneumonia actually affected my mental space because I'm all like when I get a rejection, like a job rejection, it's kind of like,
Mhm.
man, I feel like garbage. It's just kind of like I just sleep. It's like signs of depression. And then after urgent care, when the doctor gave me some antibiotics, some steroids for my lungs and stuff, I'm like, man, I feel so good, like.
Oh man, once you get those steroids, all of a sudden you think you're
Yeah,
Superman.
I was like working in the yard yesterday. I'm
You
like,
should not be working
I
in the
know,
yard
I am.
when you've got pneumonia. That's crazy.
There's something wrong with me. But Elliot, what's your burnout meter? 1 being the lowest and 10 being the highest.
Ooh. Probably at a 2 right now. I just finished my work week, so I'm in my recovery stage for sure. Had a nice slow morning, but luckily I get, 2 days off to recover. And luckily already went grocery shopping. So basically today I just get to enjoy being home.
Sunday fun day. That's
Mhm.
great.
Or your Sunday admin days.
Yeah, admin day too, right?
Luckily I admined last week, so I truly just get to putter around the house, which is one of my favorite activities.
Nice. So, Jen is also planning a wedding.
Yes, I am.
And now, Elliot, congratulations. I did not know you were
Thank
engaged.
you.
That's awesome.
It's going to be a very small thing just because it's mostly a lot of paperwork for an international wedding. So I'm getting married in November in Scotland,
Oh,
Edinburgh,
wow.
to be specific.
Wow.
That's where my fiance is from. And my parents are very excited because my mom's never been to the UK and my dad hasn't been in quite a while. So
Uh-huh.
they're already planning on cavorting around the UK. And I was like, well, don't forget to come to the wedding.
You're like, yes, it's your vacation, but it's also my wedding.
Yeah, it's like you have to be there. But other than that, yes, you can go explore, of course.
I asked your dad how many countries he's been to, and he told me he was 33. Because
Yeah.
some of my coworkers had an impression he was a century traveler, like reached his 100. And when he told me 33, I'm like, what? I was so shocked.
He,
Still a lot, man.
Yeah.
So his mom, my nana, was a flight attendant for a very long time. So travel was very important to them growing up. So he went to like tons of places when he was a kid. He has a very funny story about being like, I don't even remember how old, like a kid, like maybe 7, and being in Shanghai, and people, my dad has very curly hair, and people just come up and touch his hair.
They can't believe it.
Yeah. And so yeah, my dad's been to lots of places. My mom, this will be her first time going to the UK. She's not as much of a traveler.
Well, I'm excited for the both of them.
That's fun for everybody.
Yeah, it's going to be November, so it's going to be very cold and rainy, but as Californians, we still find that charming. My fiance and his family are like, oh, it's probably going to rain. And I was like, oh no, how beautiful.
Yeah, it's like, you don't know because you don't live in California how rare this occasion is.
Mm-hmm. No, I'll send him pictures of like, this is what I'm doing today. And he's like, it's so beautiful out. What do you mean? And I was like, yeah, it doesn't really rain in April that much here. And he's like, what?
Nope.
Okay.
Used to.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, tell me about your wedding, Jen.
I'm getting married in October, and we're doing like a fall theme, and we're having it at a barn.
Love that.
And yeah, it's my second wedding, and my son's going to be involved in it, so we're excited about that. And I wrote my vows already. It's in 6 months, but I wrote my vows because our friend is going to be the officiant, and she was like, let's get things going. And she knows I need prodding. So we could do some admin days, and that probably would help with things. So.
I let me tell you, we have specific wedding admin days because it's like, okay.
Do you?
Yeah, because we're around that, we're close to that, like 6 month out. So it's just one of those where like things start getting much realer over the next few months because, like a year out, it's just like, no, we got the venue, everything's fine.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, that's exactly what we did. I was like, we have the venue, we know who's gonna be the officiant, and then it's like, oh crap, it's how many months away now? We probably should nail down some other things.
Yeah,
Wait,
we have to send out invitations? That's crazy.
I don't have any done that yet.
Same.
I keep telling people, I'm like, hey, you know me, you know what's happening. You'll get an invitation eventually.
The most romantic, beautiful GCal you have ever seen.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it's just, well, at least it's not just me, because I'm like, I've been like, oh man, when I planned my wedding when I was younger, I had a lot more energy. It was a lot more like Monica from Friends with like the book and everything. But this time around, I'm like, we're just gonna be fun and easy. So I'm sure there's a lot you have to plan though with your wedding being international, like a lot of paperwork and stuff.
Yeah. A lot of paperwork, visa stuff. Luckily, it's pretty easy because it's the UK, so I don't have to like translate anything. But had to get my birth certificate because they do require it there for the marriage certificate. And I remember, and I was asking my fiance, and I was like, well, why? And he's like, oh, they have to prove that we're not related. And I said, that's the most freaking British thing I've ever heard.
I thought you had to go in to do a DNA test. Like, I heard back in the day, like my parents told me, like, at Santa Ana courtroom, they used to do DNA
do tests. A blood test.
Yeah, blood test.
So
I'm surprised they don't like ask for. You would have to go to a medical clinic and be like, I know you're not related, but we need to do this and take a sample of your blood, and we'll tell you in a week if you're related or not.
Because since it lists both of our parents there, I believe it's only up to like first cousins in the UK.
Oh my God.
After that. So I don't think they're that in depth, but I don't want to talk out of school with that too much.
That is crazy.
That is crazy.
All right. So Jen, can you tell our besties where they can find us?
Yes, you can find us on the gram at life.generally with a J. Or you can email us at lifegenerallywithaj@gmail.com. And if you want to support us financially for helping with the podcast, you can also buy us a coffee on buymeacoffee.com/Life Jenerally. You can also find that in the show notes. Jen will put them in there because she's an amazing producer.
Also, besties, if you did not notice, our podcast typically gets posted on Thursday nights from 9 to 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Times, but you will definitely get it on your Fridays or Fridays, so you can start the weekend or your Friday in a good mood. So, Elliot, I'm going to ask you this. Do you have any last words for our besties?
Wear sunscreen and go to therapy.
We could just close right there.
Say that.
Jen?
That's so good. It reminds me of that Baz Luhrmann song that was like a spoken song that was like everybody's free to wear sunscreen. I would say take care of yourself and your loved ones.
That's a good one too. For myself, I would say don't garden when you're on steroids. You're not doing so well the next day. But no, if you have walking pneumonia, just take it easy.
Maybe take it easy on yourself. Pneumonia is not something to mess with, Jen.
Other than that, I would have to say be open to your kids. Also, early intervention for your child. If you recognize that there's something a little bit off, does a lot of help for your family and for your child that now you have identified that they are special needs, and siblings that not being afraid to talk about it openly and normalizing it makes it a better environment as a household and a family. So I actually admire the Solomons a lot because I'm like, oh wow, this is like crazy stuff. Like in my head, this is like very new to me to hear this versus like a lot of families that I've encountered, they don't like to talk about it, and this is great. So,
yeah, I agree. I think that being welcoming and caring and taking that role with your family, and there's nothing to hide. You just might as well dig in and help each other. And I think that Elliot's folks definitely were really all in, and I think more people should be like that.
So thank you, Elliot, for being a part of the podcast and telling your story. I can't wait. Actually, I really hope we meet in person someday and we could go get coffee or something.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love that. It was
We
lovely.
could do an
meeting both of
admin
us.
game day online too, Jen.
Yeah, admin day.
And yes, last words, I just learned admin day. It must be
Life
still.
Jenerally.
Yeah, exactly. All right.
Jen
Squared
squared.
out. Yay!
Heck yeah.